cello as an identity for me really didn't happen until 7th grade. Before that, it was really something my father wanted me to do. But then came outside experiences as well. And I realized that I did have a talent, and I was getting some positive feedback. And that was really a time when my father, because it became what I wanted to do, all of a sudden, my cello playing did not interest him anymore.
I don't think that I can say that there was ever a time that I recall not wanting to be a violinist since the time I was first put in my hands. As luck would have it, my godfather, who was my father's best friend at the time, was Alphonse Carlo. He was the one who discovered that I have what is called perfect pitch. And he told my father, he said, with an ear like this, you ought to start him on violin. So he gave me my first lessons. And from that time on, I don't think I even went through a stage where I wanted to be a cowboy or any of the other things that the little children want to do. I always wanted to be a violinist.
As children, Charlie and I had a dual kind of relationship. I think we're pretty normal 3 or 4 year olds. We would bicker, but we would pal around, we'd play with each other, but we'd fight, just like any normal kid. As far as the music, when that started, my brother was older, and so he started the violin and piano at 4, and then a couple of years later, I started piano. I was always aware that Charlie was 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead of me. I didn't start cello until I was 8, and he had been playing violin then for 6 years. The other thing was that my father wouldn't let me study with an outside teacher, where my brother, very early on, did study outside.
My father had polio when he was 3 years old, with the result that he was paralyzed from his hips down. My father was a very independent man and a very brilliant man. He didn't want to feel at the mercy of what was happening, and so, at least this is what I've been able to piece together now in my adult years. He needed the feeling, the sense that he was absolutely in control of his environment and the people around him. And that would then apply to us, his family.
This guy's name is Charles Gordon Rex Jr. Now, little boy, do you think it's going to sound good? You can't, how are you going to hear a nod? You can't nod your head, that doesn't go on the wire. You have to say yes or no, speak up, loud.
It's very good now.
Talk louder than that. You say, yes, it's going to sound very good, sir.
Yes, it's going to sound very good, sir.
Stay here. Don't move from the mic. Learn to stop right like that and talk to me. Keep looking at me and talk into the microphone.
He would yell all the time, calling you an idiot or you knucklehead or you muttonhead or whatever. So it was pretty intense. I really encouraged my mother to leave. My mother was 15 years younger. He also resented that she started to have a career as a piano teacher, very successful, instead of remaining in the home and he being the center of attention. I mean, there were even fights so loud that the neighbors would call the police.
On the surface, it appears that maybe I escaped this with some semblance of normality, but I'm not without my problems because of it. I cannot stand temper. Angry people. If someone gets angry at me, I simply freeze. I simply do not know how to react. My father had a very volatile personality, but then you have to wonder how much of that could he himself control? He was as much a victim of himself as we were.
The music became an identity for me, and it had nothing anymore to do with my father, except that he had given me, I think, some advantages by his musicality early on. And his approach was always big. Being in the junior high school orchestra wasn't enough. We needed to be soloists with the New York Philharmonic. Anything less than that wasn't good enough. Well, guess what? We ended up doing it.
I tend to look at the past through rose-colored glasses. It's interesting to hear myself speak and try to analyze the relationship with my father, because most of the time I don't think about it. though it's interesting because about once or twice a month I still have a nightmare about my father.
We have had to transcend my father, and in other ways we've done it to a great degree, but there is a degree to which we never will.